Olive Garden. When you're there, you're family. You're also thrust into an experience attempting to emulate traditional Italian dining, right? Wrong. I'm here to destroy that immersion, crush it into a million pieces, and myth-bust Olive Garden's ass. So you might be asking, what are your qualifications? Well, let me tell you, I lived in Italy for 4 months, and I ate well. Like, very well. So, I know what the traditional Italian dining experience should look like, taste like, sound like, feel like. You get the gist. So, I took a few friends and we ventured to our local Olive Garden to test it out. Getting in and seated was relatively simple. The atmosphere of an Olive Garden is pretty similar to traditional trattorias in Italy. A trattoria is a version of a restaurant in which everything is cheaper in price, it's a little bit more casual, but you're still gonna get good food. I will say, this sentiment is only reflected in Olive Garden's atmosphere, not its prices. A typical meal in Florence costs 11 to 22 US dollars, 10 to 20 euros for conversion's sake. To get the same amount of food and drink at Olive Garden, you're going to have at least a $20 bill.
Are the games for $3?
You can.
We ordered our drinks, appetizers, and main courses all in a few different rounds. This is normal considering the amount of tables and people a server is expected to deal with at the same time here, but in Italy the serving experience is a bit more personalized. It's a lot more welcoming, slower paced, yet somehow more efficient from what I remember. I got a glass of Prosecco, which I had to pour into my glass myself from a bottle, which is not uncommon for drinks as a whole in Italy. However, this is something you would typically do with a cider or a beer, never a wine, so that felt a little off to me.
She's so cool.
Our first course came in swiftly after our drinks were delivered. Cam, Jillian, and I all got the chicken and gnocchi soup. I need to say, I never saw anything like this in Italy, but I ordered it for the sake of trying the gnocchi, right? Well, I was disappointed. This bowl had 2 pieces of chicken, 1 piece of gnocchi, and when I ate it, it was gummy at best. It was gross. And the rest was just completely tasteless, so I was very frustrated. Anthony and Wyatt strayed a little bit from the group. Anthony got a bowl of zuppa toscana, which I had never seen when I lived in Tuscany, and Wyatt had a bowl of salad to himself, which I also never saw, with the exception of a few salads in a touristy restaurant in Rome. The zuppa toscana is not very common for me to see because the soups were lumped in with the pasta courses at most restaurants. So I wasn't really looking at the soups when I had the pasta dishes of my dreams sitting right in front of me. Anthony said his soup was flavorful and he had pretty big slices of potato. That's great. Couldn't tell you if that was something that they actually served in Italy. Bread was also common at most bigger restaurants, so Olive Garden did get this right, albeit in a different shape than normal, and we all indulged in the bread, to say the least.
That's not
Crazy.
Thanks, pal.
After our appetizers, the pasta came in hot. No pun intended. Jillian and Cam both got dishes of Alfredo, I got a dish of rigatoni with marinara, and Anthony and Wyatt both got 2 different kinds of carbonara. I'll get to those in a minute. After looking at all of the options for pasta dishes, none of them resemble what you'd see on a menu in Italy. After cross-referencing the menu from my favorite restaurant in Florence, Trattoria Zaza, I can easily say that the 2 menus do not share anything except penne with tomato sauce. That's it. Alfredo is an American creation with an Italian dish called cacio e pepe, somehow not making the trip overseas. And the carbonaras that Anthony and Wyatt ordered could not have been further off. A traditional Roman carbonara has 4 ingredients aside from the actual pasta. The sauce is made out of pecorino cheese, egg yolks, and pepper. Those are all mixed together, and then guanciale is added into the mix. Guanciale is the cheek of the pig, and it's very salty and savory and not bacon, which is what we use here because for whatever reason we don't use guanciale, we use bacon. The flavor profiles are obviously going to be different there, and in addition to that, carbonara should not be as widely spread as it is in the United States. Carbonara in Rome is unique because it's a bright yellow because of the use of the egg yolks there. We wouldn't even order carbonara much outside of Rome because it's a traditional Roman dish. Florence has Florentine steak, Venice has seafood. You get the idea. It's not something that you would order outside of the city it was made because it's not going to be as good. Anthony and Wyatt's carbonaras looked more like the two other Alfredo dishes on the table than anything else. And they either had chicken as their protein or chicken and shrimp. And none of those things are in a traditional Roman carbonara. So, needless to say, the pasta course was not very good. After we ate, we all felt very full. Like, unbuttoning the top button of a jeans full. This was not common in Italy either. When we finished our meals, we would feel full, but in the way of feeling satisfied. Not like we were about to explode. Anthony was the only person that was able to actually finish his meal. The rest of us needed to-go boxes. We contemplated dessert at the start of the meal, but by the end of it, we couldn't stomach anything else. In Italy, the tradition was to eat a full meal and step out for a bit of gelato or, go out and do something. Not sit and just veg out. In the United States, after a meal at Olive Garden, you jump into your car and you slip into a food coma. That's not the best end to your dining experience, if you ask me. In terms of accuracy to the Italian dining experience, I need to give Olive Garden like a 3 out of 10. There were barely any redeeming qualities to the experience, and even though I had a great evening with my friends, the food that we ate and the drinks that we drank did not necessarily reflect that. If I were looking for a restaurant to emulate the experience that I had while living in Italy, Olive Garden is the last place that I would go to. Do better, Olive Garden. I beg.